first of all, thank you all so much for attending this event here. Really excited to be here. Really excited to take part in this awesome SIE prep course that you have here. This is not a really common thing. We're actually just now discovering this ourselves. So this is awesome. So to give a quick introduction, my name is Joseph. I am a university relations lead with Vanguard. I've been with this company for about 4 years now, and I started off as a client relationship associate in one of our entry-level positions, basically working on the phone, taking client inquiries, processing transactions, stock trades, things of that nature, before taking an internship in recruiting. Following my recruiting position, I came into the UR space, which is where I am now, doing campus recruiting for our entry-level positions. I'll hand it over to my colleague, Allison, who is currently recruiting as well, if you want to give a quick intro.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Alison Johnson. I am a recruiter for one of our entry-level positions here at Vanguard. I have been with Vanguard for about 5 years now. I actually came here straight out of college, and I started in the same entry-level position that I'm now recruiting for, which is kind of cool. As far as career path goes, I have been in 5 different positions in the 5 years that I've been at Vanguard. So that kind of gives you like an idea of the movement and the growth opportunities that we have here. Now, obviously, I am in recruiting. I'm actually doing an internship in recruiting right now. I've been doing it for about 6 months and I love it. So happy to be chatting with you guys today, and hopefully this is all helpful for you.
Right, thank you so much, Allison. And then we also have another of my colleagues on the call right now, Zane. He is actually my newest teammate as of yesterday. He is shadowing this call. Zane, if you want to give a quick intro as well. You might be muted, by the way.
I don't think he is muted, but maybe he is having trouble to find the audio.
Maybe. All right, well, in that case, we can just move on, no problem. Let's see. All right, so to quickly go over our agenda today, we'll be going into really an overview of who we are, who is Vanguard, before going into really the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is going to be how to get hired at Vanguard, going over your personal brand, resume best practices, interview preparation, etc. So really to get right into it, why Vanguard? Now, if you are a client, why would you choose Vanguard? Now, some of the things that come to my mind are our low cost expense ratios, our world-class service, my headset just restarted, our world-class client service, our reputation, and the trust between our clients and advisors. The clients are truly our priority. So now, when applying to any company, as you may or may not already know, it's important to look around on their website for their mission statement. This can be your first step of learning about what the company is all about. So for Vanguard, our mission statement is to take a stand for all investors, to treat them fairly, and to give them the best chance at investment success. Now, I'm so sorry, I don't know why my headset keeps resetting. A good example of this is that none of our advisors work off of commission. So clients can feel confident that we don't have any conflicting interests, and our only measurement of success is how well their portfolios do. Now, our goal is to give each investor that best chance of investment success by providing the tools, educating them, and providing guidance so that they can make big investment decisions themselves. And that's one of the big core responsibilities of a client relationship associate, such as like the role that I came from, is that that's what you'll be doing every day. You'll be on the front line. I'm so sorry. You'll be speaking with clients from all different walks of life, all different age groups, planning for retirement, planning for having their first child, planning on going back to school, all different events in their life. Now, whether you have $5,000 or $1 million, you are all treated the same at Vanguard. However, many of you are probably in this presentation because you're interested in possibly working for Vanguard. So why work at Vanguard? Now take notes, everyone. One thing that our interviewers are looking for is what you already know about us. So why work for us? Now at Vanguard, you are seen as an individual, not a number. Now, if you've seen the Vanguard vessel, that represents us, the crew. And you may start to realize we have a lot of nautical terms. Our employees are called crew members, our cafeteria is called the galley, our on-site gyms are called ship shape, etc. And this is by no coincidence. Our founder, John Bogle, was a huge naval enthusiast, and he named the company after Admiral Nelson's flagship battle at the Nile in 1798 because he believed that the name resonated with leadership and progress. And it really shines through. Vanguard is a very team-oriented and collaborative environment, just like the crew members on a ship. Now, as I mentioned before, Vanguard is a place that you'll be heard and valued. And to put that into real terms, at least twice a month, you'll have a one-on-one meeting with your team leader where you'll drive the conversation, whether that's performance management, career development, or you just need someone to talk to. And at least twice a year, you'll have what's called a skip level meeting. And this is where you'll meet your boss's boss. It's a little bit more formal and at least 30 minutes in length. And it's a great opportunity to tap into senior leadership. And they do this because they want to hear your voice and they want to take away actionable items that Vanguard can work on. Now, we want to be recognized not only as one of the top financial companies, but also an institution that values its crew and their diverse backgrounds. So let me take a look here. All right. So to touch very briefly upon our history, I won't go into too much depth about this just because there's a lot to go over and we don't have time for that. We were founded back in 1975. We began operations on May 1st, and for the first time, mutual funds were choosing to mutualize, taking back the responsibilities customarily handled by a fund management company. And really a little over a year later, the first index investment trust, which is now known as the Vanguard 500 Index, opened to investors on August 31st, 1976. Now, index investing, that's our bread and butter. Now, if you're not familiar, these are investment vehicles where you have a fund manager managing a portfolio of investments that mimic a benchmark, in this case, the 500 index from Standard & Poor, and investments only change when the benchmark changes. So it really follows the performance of the market, going more like a low and slow type of approach to long-term investing. So we've talked about clients, we've talked about crew. Let's talk about how Vanguard gives back to the community. So one big major component of Vanguard and what we stand for is the fact that we have this core value of community stewardship. So to put this into tangible examples here, our biggest program that we have would be, say, the Vanguard Strong Start for Kids program, which is really a 2-week-long fundraising opportunity where we have 5Ks, we have different events to raise money for providing students with the resources they need to be ready for school who are living in poverty in Philadelphia, Phoenix, Charlotte, and London. So really focusing on that school readiness there. However, during the pandemic, we've had COVID-19 relief programs and other initiatives to really give back to the crew and community. Now, depending on what year you're in school, we have different programs and different initiatives that may appeal to you or what may be relevant to you in this time of your career search. So if, say, you're a freshman or a sophomore, we have our Explorer programs, which can give you a more in-depth exposure to who Vanguard is. Think about like what we're doing right now on this call, but over the course of about 4 hours, where you'll get to meet leaders of the business, you'll be able to hear people's stories and how they came to Vanguard, as well as attend professional development opportunities. Our North Star Learning Program, this is geared towards those who are minorities and provides a longer term, I want to say about a week-long program, which will pretty much do the same thing, where you'll get that exposure to the business, you'll be able to network, see what the job is really like, etc. To all those who are sophomores and juniors, we have our internship programs, which can span across finance and accounting, IT, finance, advice, etc. 10-week paid programs over the summer where you'll be able to do meaningful project-based work to learn more about the business and hopefully lead into full-time employment upon graduation. And to those in the room who are seniors and above, we have our full-time opportunity, so you can really get right into it, whether that be our client relationship associate position that I was mentioning or other opportunities that we have within finance as well as in IT. Now, if you want more information, you can text VG Explore to 313131, where you'll be able to get more information and be directed to our careers portal. Thankfully, my headset beeps every time it resets, so hopefully you're not missing any information that I'm saying. All right, so before I turn it over to Allison here, just remember, those of you in the room, you are the future workforce. By 2025, millennials will make up about 75% of the workforce. And by 2030, Generation Z, that's all of you, will make up 36% of the workforce, and that's going to continue growing. So remember that the impact that you have now is what's going to matter tomorrow. And we've been in some really turbulent times these past couple years, and just know that the power is at your hands right now as you take these next steps in your career. So with that all said, Allison, do you have the PowerPoint up on your screen so you have the notes?
So I do, but the only thing is that I'm afraid that if I share my screen, the speaker notes will show.
You can, what you'll do is when you click share screen, it'll have you select which screen you want to share. Or do you only have one monitor?
I only have one monitor. So I'm wondering if I could just tell you like next slide and you can just click it.
That works. That works. Okay.
All right, cool. So then we will move on to resume best practices here. Oh, sorry, Joe. I thought you wanted me to start at resume best practices. We might have to just skip a few slides here.
Oh, no problem. Here, I'll do these slides and we'll get to your slide. Minor miscommunication there. So when it comes to professional branding, I'll go into professional branding in that case. So for all you millennials and Generation Zs in the room, think about a time where you've said something along the lines of, oh, that's so on brand or that's so off brand. This persona can very much carry over into the professional space. There are ways that you can integrate it, and there are ways that you can separate it. And you may have heard about personal branding in your classes. Now, here's a little spoiler. Realistically, it's not something that you're going to ultimately think about on an everyday basis, but it is something that's going to become second nature for you. So think about how you want to be perceived. What do you need to do to ensure that others see your professional personality versus like your Instagram personality or your evening personality? I don't know what you do in your personal lives there, but that's a really important thing that you're going to need to start thinking about now that you're in college and now that you're thinking about how you want companies to see you. So going into social media, let's see, 46 million students and recent college graduates are on LinkedIn, and that's, once again, continuously growing, especially now that we have more career resources and more companies are appearing on LinkedIn. There are more than 14 plus million active job listings on the LinkedIn platform. And you may have already known this, but you can apply to jobs through LinkedIn, just like how you can, say, through Indeed or through Handshake. And 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to vet candidates. We're guilty. Sometimes your resume just doesn't cut it. Not in a bad sense, but we may look you up on LinkedIn, or you may get a notification that so-and-so looked you up on LinkedIn, or you may receive a message from recruiters on LinkedIn saying, we have this challenging opportunity, and based on what you put onto your profile, we think you might be a good fit. Take advantage of that. People are asking you to interview with them. See what happens. Now, kickstart your brand on social media. So for those of you who aren't on LinkedIn, what are you doing? So it's really easy to get set up on that website there. Select an appropriate photo, whether it be, say, your senior headshot or just a professional shot of you dressed nicely, say, against a neutral background or anything like that. And photos will get you about 21 times more profile views. Develop a professional summary. Your headline can be a straightforward or fun version of your job title or what you're looking for in a career. And it's basically your elevator pitch. If you already have a bio, start there and change it to the first person and include keywords in both so that it can be easily found. And list your top skills and work experience. So list out your work experience, including your internships, create bullet points, your on-campus jobs, the clubs, your initiatives, major projects, extracurriculars, all of it. And describe your major wins or projects and the value that you brought into your team or class within 2 to 3 sentences. Updated experience will get you about 8 times more profile views. And provide work examples. Use photos, videos, presentations, blogs, etc., and get active. Just like every other social media, the more active you are, the more you're going to be seen. So like posts, comment on your friends' posts when they get a job offer and congratulate them, and share news articles that you see that really resonate with you, that you want your network to see. Now, with that in mind, think about the do's and the don'ts. What do you post on social media and what do you not post on social media? And I know some of this stuff really goes without saying, but sometimes you'd be surprised about what you can see on Facebook or on Instagram, et cetera. Now, make sure that you're researching companies, make sure that you're posting a flattering and professional headshot, make sure that you're showcasing your skills and that you're checking your spelling and grammar before posting. Don't post anything inappropriate. Don't complain about previous employers. You want to be really as neutral as possible as you can on these websites, since you want to be able to appeal to a wide audience. You never know who's going to be on the other side of the screen that's looking at your profile. Don't share anything illegal. Once again, I know it goes without saying, but it's still worth mentioning. And don't make any discriminatory remarks. So, especially now that we're in the virtual world, how you brand your online presence is going to be even more critical. Most interactions that you're going to have with recruiters will be on LinkedIn, through email, through the phone, or through a video call. In some cases, that may be the only, even when you get the job, maybe the only interaction you have with them. How do you want to be perceived behind this digital curtain? And look at your public social media profiles through a third-party lens and show components of your personality that you would want your future boss to see. Otherwise, think about, say, putting your social media profiles on private so that they can't be as easily accessed. Just a suggestion there. So we are going to skip over this activity, actually. We'll just go into resume best practices.
Yes, so resume best practices. So your resume is essentially an extension of your personal brand. So you want to think of ways that you can make your resume unique to yourself, but also, of course, keep it professional. So first thing here, you want to try your best to keep your resume to one page, especially right out of college. I feel like there's really no need to have a resume that's longer than one page. So try to keep it to one page if you can. Research the job description and tailor your resume accordingly. So for example, if you are applying for like a customer service based role, definitely want to include, of course, your customer service experience on your resume. The third bullet point here, please, please, please have multiple people review your resume prior to sending it out. Honestly, I do see a lot of resumes that have spelling and grammatical errors, and it just kind of comes across as kind of unprofessional and unpolished. So please just have someone review it before you actually get it sent out. List your address, phone number, and email. So phone number and email are going to be especially important so that we can, have some way to reach out to you and contact you about the position. You will also want to list your college information first on your resume. And underneath your college information, you want to include expected graduation date, your GPA, and then also your major or field of study is also helpful for us to know as recruiters as well. After your college information that's listed on your resume, you will then list your work experience in chronological order. So starting with the most recent experience and then going down from there. Create multiple versions of your resume. So this is optional. I actually use my same resume for almost everything, but I do kind of tweak it as needed, just kind of depending on the role that I'm applying for. And then lastly here, convert your Word document into a PDF to retain the original formatting. That is pretty self-explanatory there. It just kind of helps to, like it says, keep the original formatting, make sure everything is nice and neat when we go in and download your resume. All right. Where do recruiters look on resumes? So this study used eye tracking to watch a recruiter's eye movement when they're looking at a resume. And the study concluded in the short time that recruiters spent looking at resumes, they most commonly look at the following information. So the first one being graduation year. When will the candidate be available to start work? So, for example, I know this is true because I do it myself. If I'm looking at resumes and I see an expected graduation date for May 2024, that's going to be a no for me because that's too far out. So graduation year is going to be the first thing. GPA doesn't meet minimum requirements. Our minimum requirements that we have here at Vanguard is a 2.5. So I definitely try to look at the GPA first as well. Job titles. So what roles has the candidate held previously? Company names. Has the candidate worked for any notable companies? Employment dates and durations. So does the candidate jump around a lot or do they tend to stick in one place? Education. Did the candidate study a related field? For me, it is of course nice to see like finance and economics because at Vanguard, we of course are an investment company, but your field of study, it's not really the end all be all. And then interestingly enough, the final things according to this study that the recruiters tended to look at were the bullet points. So essentially these sentences that were explaining like your job experience, and then also organization. So is the candidate involved in leadership or volunteering? Those, according to this study, were kind of the last things that the eyes were drawn to. So I did think that that was kind of interesting. Joe did have a little piece of advice here on his speaker notes. Keep bullet points to one line maximum. This is very true. I actually had to go in my own resume and shorten my bullet points to be one line. We don't have time to read through your entire resumes as recruiters, so simply highlight the most important projects and responsibilities and then just kind of call it a day.
Basically, put any information that you're okay with having be skimmed. Just know that like a resume is probably not going to be read in thorough detail. What's okay to be skimmed?
Yep, exactly. All right, so this is a sample resume format. What I want you guys to look at here is under her experience. So for example, I am looking at, so under Olivia Pope's resume, the White House, her summer research intern experience. So as you're looking at that, for each experience entry that you have on your resume, you want to include 4 basic elements. So these 4 elements will be the organization name, the job title, the location, and the duration. So just for an example, Olivia here has under organization name, the White House. Her job title was summer research intern, location, Washington, D.C., and duration, May through August 2016. So that's perfect. She has 4 basic elements there, which is great. She has all that covered. If you don't have any work experience, definitely feel free to include other items like extracurricular activities, skills, honors, and like volunteer activities as well. All right, so now moving on to the interview preparation process. So this is a little timeline of the typical interview process. So first is going to be research. That's huge. One of the first questions that you will probably be asked in an interview is, what do you know about us? So be prepared for that question. Have an understanding of the company's purpose and mission. So if you can find a mission statement on the company's website, definitely come prepared with that. I love it when candidates can tell me Vanguard's mission statement. It just shows that they kind of, took the time to go on our website and look at that. The second step, of course, submit your resume and cover letter. So when you apply for a position, you will, of course, need to have a resume and possibly a cover letter as well. Third step here, prepare and practice. So think about how you will respond to the interviewer's questions and ask a friend to conduct a mock interview so that you have a chance to practice responding to those questions. I cannot stress the importance of mock interviews enough. They might sound silly and they are kind of uncomfortable at first, but very beneficial, helps you to kind of also feel just more relaxed actually going into the interview as well. At least it does in my case. Fourth step is the actual interview. So that is where you will have the opportunity to showcase your skills, experiences, and abilities. So dress professionally, of course, if this is in person or on camera. And then last step in the process would be the follow-up. So you want to make sure to send a thank you note to everybody who you interviewed with. Honestly, not many people do that these days, I've noticed, at least not in my case. And I will say sometimes candidates can have maybe a mediocre interview, but if they send me a follow-up email or a thank you email, it's very respectful, very professional, and it does go a long way. So if you can do that, if you remember to do that, definitely do. All right, next slide here. Okay, so the behavioral interview. I don't know if you guys are familiar with answering the familiar with the STAR method for answering behavioral-based interview questions. I know that when I was in college, one of our professors did speak to it a little bit, but essentially, the STAR-based questions are very common with job interviews. And STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. Companies ask these behavioral-based questions to gauge how you've reacted in previous situations and how your job skills will transfer into your role. So the behavioral questions that we ask here at Vanguard, that I ask every day, those kind of probe around relationship management skills, problem solving skills, learning agility, etc. And just some advice in preparing for those STAR questions. This is at least what I did whenever I prepare for an interview. So go ahead and sit down, create a Word document for yourself, and think about all of your work and school experiences that stand out to you, and write down as many details as you possibly can. And then Google example interview questions and try to figure out a way to answer them with those experiences that you just wrote down. And typically the more examples that you have, the more you will be ready if and when you get asked a question that's kind of out of left field, you'll be prepared. All right, thanks, Joe. Next slide here. Sorry, I feel so bad that you have to do this for me.
No, you're
All
fine.
right, so
this is easy.
Perfect. So here are some examples of commonly asked behavioral-based questions. So when practicing using the STAR method that we just discussed, what you're first going to want to do is be sure that each answer to these questions has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So essentially, be ready to describe the situation, including the task at hand, the action, and then the outcome or the result. And be sure that the outcome or the result reflects positively on you, even if the result itself was not favorable or you didn't end up meeting that deadline for whatever reason. Just still make sure that the outcome reflects positively on you in some way. You also want to be honest, so don't embellish or omit any part of the story. Be sure to think of specific examples and avoid generalizing if at all possible. And try to vary your examples. So don't take all of your examples from just one area of your life or one experience. Try to mix it up a bit if you can. So use school and work examples if you can. And then lastly, don't be afraid to talk about negative events. Negative events can actually sometimes be really great examples to show how you learn from mistakes and how you overcome obstacles as well. All right, and then last slide here. So the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the interview would be questions for your interviewer. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You definitely want to make sure that the company and the role will be a great fit for yourself as well. So some examples that I really like when candidates ask me, just to give you some so that you have, for example, one might be, what has your career path been within the company? or what are the next steps within the interviewing process. My favorite one is, what does a day in the life of this role look like? So get all of your questions answered. The last thing that we want is to offer you a job and then 6 months after you quit because it was nothing like what you imagined. So definitely take time to ask questions. Appropriate question topics right there, as you guys can see. So business goals, career development, teamwork opportunities, all solid question topics for your interviewer. So on this column, avoid asking about salary and bonuses. We will get to that as recruiters. That will come up in the conversation at some point. So maybe just wait until the recruiter talks to you about that. Policies and paid time off, also something that like you would of course want to know when it comes to making a decision for yourself in like a company that you want to be in, but maybe don't have that be your first question, about paid time off. Budgets and raises, your competition, I would avoid asking about those. The last one that I think it's kind of interesting because I would think that it would actually be the opposite, but interview feedback. So we as recruiters, and Joe, I'm sure you can, you would probably say the same thing. We can't we can't provide feedback for everyone's interview if they didn't get the job. So sometimes it could just be simply that like you're not qualified enough for the job. I know that like we're kind of told to get feedback or coaching in certain things, but this would not be one of those things in life where you would want to get feedback or where you would ask for feedback. So I don't know, Joe, would you agree with that?
Correct. Yes, because for something like that, I would say for like a mock interview, absolutely. And sometimes depending on the scenario, you can ask, say, if you don't get a position, you can certainly ask, and then it'd be, say, up to the recruiter as per the company policy, if they're able to give feedback. What I can say about Vanguard is we're not able to give that. It's against our company policy. So it never hurts. Like something like that's never going to hurt to ask. But it's not like an ideal thing to ask.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, that kind of concludes resume best practices and then the interview process. The next slide here is just definitely feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn under Alison Johnson. And then these little hashtags here, you can search those on LinkedIn and you'll be able to find like postings for jobs here at Vanguard. I know on my LinkedIn, I post like all of our entry level positions as well. So feel free to connect with me. And then Joe, did you have anything else to say about this slide?
Absolutely. Actually these hashtags will work whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we're on it. And so you can get our different perspectives in whichever format you feel that you prefer, you can find us there. So, and yeah, you can absolutely add me on LinkedIn as well under Joseph Ferenchiak. Yeah, I'm sure my name will come up quite easily just based on that spelling. But yeah, that's all we had. Thank you so much for attending. And what we will do now is turn it over to question and answer.
Allison and Joseph, thank you so much. It's so, I think, comforting to hear some of the things that you're mentioning align so well with what our Career Center coaches are reviewing with students when we meet with them one-on-one or when we're doing presentations for classes. And I would agree 100%. I mean, we do practice interviews here in the Career Center, and that's the place to really get feedback. And we want to give that to you before you go out for an interview that really matters to you. So I would encourage students today at Edinburgh, Cal U, I don't know if we have any Clarion students in this class, but your Career Center can do practice interviews with you, and you can schedule that appointment through Handshake. And you can even bring in a job description or send it to that person ahead of time, and we will tailor the practice interview to that job and ask you very specific behavioral questions. So it'll be great practice. But thank you so much. Such great information. Thank you for sharing it with our students.
Of course, pleasure to give it out.